All right, guys. So in this video, I'm going to give you some examples of some really good discovery questions that I think the average AE should be willing and able to ask inside of the discovery. Now, if you guys haven't watched how to build a personalized discovery video yet, I've also recorded that. Make sure you go back and watch that because these questions without the context behind that video aren't going to be as valuable to you. But I'll go through a couple of questions and hopefully this gives you a few new ways to ask questions to uncover these issues. So one of the first questions I would always ask you is, what are you trying to accomplish in this call today? Keep in mind, customers come to the meeting for many different reasons. Whether you set the appointment, another BDR set the appointment, whether it was an inbound lead or whatnot, what are you looking to accomplish in this meeting? That really sets the tone for what is and could happen in that way. Another way we could ask this question is, what triggered you to start exploring for new options right now? Now, just be cognizant that when you ask this question, make sure that they're actually searching for new options. And especially if we're really good at cold calling, sometimes we'll convince a customer to show up the meeting and they haven't even really been looking for solutions. And one of the other questions I like to ask is, tell me what you guys do right now. Open-ended, not closed-ended, and I want to listen to all of these things. And follow-up questions to these are going to be very important. If they give you an answer, don't be afraid to double-click on that answer and dig a little deeper and dig a little deeper. Once again, you're going to know what your selling points are, so you've got the ability to really press these buttons. Don't be in a rush in your discovery. You got as much time as you need, and as long as the customer is still giving you answers, you're good to go. The next question I like to ask after, what are you guys doing right now, is I always like to go in the positive first. If I ask them, like, what do you guys do? Who do you use? I'll generally use a line like this, and I'll say, that's fantastic that you believe in the idea of using X, Y, or Z types of service. Now, I have a luxury of being able to speak to a lot of customers every single day, and those customers give me a lot of feedback. And to be honest with you, the feedback I get about X, Y, and Z company is generally not the most positive, but it sounds like you guys are pretty happy with it. Then I go to the positive. So let me ask you, what are your things that you think they do really well? What do you like about what they do? I always start with the positive, okay? And it's important because I'm going to go negative, and they know I'm going to go negative, and everybody always goes negative first. So if you notice, I asked them who they use, what they do, and I plant a seed towards negative. I'm trying to put them on a little bit of an emotional roller coaster here about their current product they use, because a lot of people hold their product set tight, close to them, because they made a decision to make it. And a lot of people are going to be less willing to admit they made a mistake, even if they know it. They still might admit it. So I'm giving them permission to say, a lot of people tell me they've got quite a bit of issues with that company. I don't hear a lot of positives, but it sounds like you have a lot of positives to say. What are your favorite things about them? Now, that question generally can go one of two ways. Sometimes they give me one, or they give me a couple of things they like, which is great, because my job in the discovery is not just to uncover the negatives, but to also find out the positives. But what you also find when you do this is you actually get them to tell you they don't know, or you get to see that hesitation of, I'm not really sure what I like about it. Sometimes they'll even say, well, I like them because that's who I have and I don't have to change. All of those answers are valuable in regards to then what you'll say when you're providing the solution. I get them to talk about the positives. Once again, I'm going to press. And a lot of times I'm going to ask multiple different additional questions around that before I go to, well, I'm sure they don't do everything perfect. Almost every company has an opportunity to do something better. What would you want to change? What would you want them to do better? What would you want the service to have that it doesn't have? So then I go to the negative. So once again, I kind of plant the seeds for complaints, ask them about the positive, then I go negative. Okay. Another way you could ask this is, walk me through your current process from start to finish. What's working? What isn't? I like to go the way I suggested, but that's another approach that I've seen work. What happens if you keep that service for the next 3 to 6 months and nothing changes? What happens from there? Okay. Another question I would ask is, how do you currently measure the success of that tool in your business? Does that tool help you measure the success of your team? What does good look like? What does bad look like? What does your decision-making process typically look like if you're exploring a new project? If it makes total sense, do you guys pull the trigger quickly? Is there this whole budget review 6-month decision-making process? And I try to be lighthearted about that because I want to almost put a little bit of a negative spin on my face and kind of create a little bit more of a negative tonality when I say that. What does an ideal partnership look like for you? If we were to move forward, who else would be a part of the decision-making process? And then I go back and re-ask a lot of these questions. But the general foundation of it is, if I know customer service is a negative issue for this customer, then I'm going to ask them. A lot of customers I talk to, I don't ever say Matt Huber feels this way, but a lot of other customers I talk to who use them or are in your position tell me this. This allows them to have permission to complain about this thing and feeling like other people also have these types of issues. This gives me an opportunity to say, hey, a lot of other people complain that customer service could be better, that they're not the quickest to respond. When I have an issue, they're unable to resolve it quickly. Is that important to you? Or is that not really a big deal? And once again, typically the bigger things will come out when I ask what works and what doesn't. But if it doesn't come out organically in that question, then I will generally pose the question in the sights of what other people tell me they generally want to get fixed, they don't like, and they need help with. Another question we'll ask is, well, currently, what is your budget for this project? What do you currently pay for that product? If it was able to be 50% better, would you be willing to pay more, or are you just looking for cost savings? This gives me the understanding of, is there a potential for me to increase their cost if I can justify the cost in value, or are they a price shopper, not a value shopper? All of these questions could really help you uncover exactly what obstacles you might face when you're looking to solve the problem. But at the end of the day, these questions are only going to guide and suggest a customer down the path, and you have the keys and the map to the path. Every time I put a customer into discovery, I think of it as in I'm putting them in to a maze. And as long as I maintain control, I determine that they go right when they need to go right, left when they need to go left, straight when they need to go straight, which is going to lead them out of the maze. And as long as I maintain leading them throughout this process, I can uncover all of the selling points I need to ultimately fix and solve their problems. Good luck. Research questions, think of questions, start with your solutions before you come up with the questions.